millions of books written on every conceivable subject by all these great minds, and in the end, none of them knows anything more about the big questions of life than I do. Jeez, I read Socrates, you know. This guy used to knock off little Greek boys. What the hell's he got to teach me? And Nietzsche with his theory of eternal recurrence. He said that the life we live, we're going to live over and over again the exact same way for eternity. Great. That means I'll have to sit through the ice capades again. It's not worth it. And Freud, another great pessimist. Jeez, I was in analysis for years. Nothing happened. My poor analyst got so frustrated. The guy finally put in a salad bar. Oh, look at all these people jogging, trying to stave off the inevitable decay of the body. Boy, it's so sad what people go through with their stationary bike and their exercise and their... Oh, look at this one. Poor thing. My God, just to tote all that fat around. You should pull it on a dolly. Maybe the poets are right. Maybe love is the only answer. Of course, I was in love with Hannah. That didn't work out too well. I even took her sister. There's an old joke. Two elderly women are at a Catskill Mountain resort, and one of them says, "Boy, the food at this place is really terrible." The other one says, "Yeah, I know, and such small portions." Well, that's essentially how I feel about life. Full of loneliness and misery and suffering and unhappiness, and it's all over much too quickly. The other important joke for me is one that's usually attributed to Groucho Marx, but I think it appears originally in Freud's Wit and its Relation to the Unconscious. And it goes like this, I'm paraphrasing. I would never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member. That's the key joke of my adult life in terms of my relationships with women. You know, lately the strangest things have been going through my mind because I turned 40. And I guess I'm going through a life crisis or something. I don't know. And I'm not worried about aging. I'm not one of those characters, you know. Although I'm balding slightly on top. That's about the worst you can say about me. I think I'm going to get better as I get older. You know, I think I'm going to be the balding virile type, you know, as opposed to, say, the distinguished gray, for instance, you know. Unless I'm neither of those two. Unless I'm one of those guys with saliva dribbling out of his mouth who wanders into a cafeteria with a shopping bag screaming about socialism.
What's it feel like to be dead for 200 years?
It's like spending a weekend in Beverly Hills. Hey, don't bother to help. It's a light car.
Were you scared? Do you believe in God?
Do I believe in God? I'm what you would call a teleological existential atheist. I believe that there's an intelligence to the universe, with the exception of certain parts of New Jersey.
Why is it I never understand what you're saying?
Why, do you believe in God?
Well, I believe that there's somebody out there who watches over us.
Unfortunately, it's the government.
Miles, did you ever realize that God spelled backwards is dog?
Yeah, so?
Makes you think.
Hey, I'm going to buy you these books, I think, because I think you should read them, you know, instead of that cat book.
That's pretty serious stuff there.
Yeah, because I'm obsessed with death, I think. It's a big subject with me, yeah. I have a very pessimistic view of life. You should know this about me if we're going to go out, you know. I feel that life is divided up into the horrible and the miserable. Those are the two categories, you know. The horrible would be like... I don't know, terminal cases, you know, and blind people, and cripples. I don't know how they get through life. It's amazing to me, you know. And the miserable is everyone else. That's so when you go through life, you should be thankful that you're miserable, because you're very lucky to be. An idea for a short story about people in Manhattan who are constantly creating these real unnecessary neurotic problems for themselves, because it keeps them from dealing with more unsolvable, terrifying problems about the universe.
Well, it has to be optimistic. All right, why is life worth living? That's a very good question. Well, there are certain things I guess that make it worthwhile. Like what? Okay. For me, I would say, Groucho Marx, to name one thing, and Willie Mays, and the second movement of the Jupiter Symphony, and Louis Armstrong, recording of Potato Head Blues, Swedish movies, naturally, Sentimental Education by Flaubert, Marlon Brando, Frank Sinatra.
Not a saint, okay.
But you're too easy on yourself. Don't you see that? You know, that's your problem. That's your whole problem. You rationalize everything. You're not honest with yourself. You talk about you want to write a book, but in the end you'd rather buy the Porsche, you know, or you cheat a little bit on Emily and you play around the truth a little with me, and then the next thing you know, you're in front of a Senate committee and you're naming names. You're informing on your friends.
You are so self-righteous, you know. I mean, we're just people. We're just human beings, you know. You think you're God.
I gotta model myself after someone.
Well, you just can't live the way you do, you know. It's all so perfect.
What are future generations gonna say about us? My God, you know, someday we're gonna be like him. I mean, you know, he was probably one of the beautiful people. He was probably dancing and playing tennis and everything. And now look, this is what happens to us. You know, it's very important to have some kind of personal integrity. You know, I'll be hanging in a classroom one day, and I want to make sure when I thin out that I'm well thought of.
What are you thinking about when you look out there?
Just all those people, and you know how unhappy most of them are, and how those terrible things they do to each other, and, you know, and everything's over so quickly, and you don't have any idea of was it worth it or not, you know.
Can't help it. Why couldn't you have been more like Donald? Now there was a model boy.
Tell the folks where you are today, Donald. I run a profitable dress company.
Boy, sometimes I wonder where my classmates are today.
I'm president of the Pincus Plumbing Company. I sell taluses. I used to be a heroin addict. Now I'm a methadone addict. I'm into leather.
After that, it got pretty late, and we both had to go, but it was great seeing Annie again. I realized what a terrific person she was, and how much fun it was just knowing her. And I thought of that old joke, you know, this guy goes to a psychiatrist and says, "Doc, my brother's crazy. He thinks he's a chicken." And the doctor says, "Well, why don't you turn him in?" And the guy says, "I would, but I need the eggs." Well, I guess that's pretty much now how I feel about relationships. You know, they're totally irrational and crazy and absurd, but I guess we keep going through it because most of us need the eggs.
But Miles, don't you see, meaningful relationships between men and women don't last. That was proven by science. You see, there's a chemical in our bodies that makes it so that we all get on each other's nerves sooner or later.
Yeah, that's science. I don't believe in science. I'm you know, science is an intellectual dead end. You know, it's a lot of little guys in tweed suits cutting up frogs on foundation grants and.
Oh, I see. You don't believe in science, and you also don't believe that the political systems work, and you don't believe in God, huh?
Right.
So then, what do you believe in?
Sex and death. Two things that come once in my lifetime. But at least after death, you're not nauseous.